All right, so Gemini risings and sun. This video is your forecast for 2026. Again, Gemini rising and sun. And we're going to be breaking down your year into 4 quarters where we're going to be examining the major transits that are happening in each quarter and the energy that I'm picking up from in the cards. So I want to start off with your yearly kind of message, or like the cards that are basically indicating the energy of your year. And I got the creative spark and communication card. So some of you guys could be going through a period where you are working on your communication skills. Maybe you are learning how to speak better in your relationships, how to be more honest, how to be honest with yourself. Maybe this is you showing up on social media and communicating there. Maybe this is you writing a book or sharing your message somehow. This is basically some type of way for you to share your inner world with the outer world and improving that process. The creative spark, I think, is pretty obvious. So whatever you guys are doing this year, there's something that you are inspired by. And I see that a lot with Uranus moving throughout your sign, Gemini, this year. We're not starting off the year with it in your sign, but Uranus will be in Gemini for most of the year. And Uranus has a very creative type of energy. It brings a lot of newness and variety into our lives, and it can often bring a lot of ideas to the table. So you might have a ton of ideas. And so this is a good time for you, Gemini, to write them all down and to get clear about what your priorities are in order to, know which ones that you want to actually move forward with. Because my Geminis, you can have tons of ideas or tons of options, or you can meet a bunch of people, and sometimes it's helpful to narrow the focus or to commit to just a few things and go all in on those things. The creative spark can also indicate innovating a certain element of your life. So Uranus is also really good about that, where you're able to look at what you're currently doing through a new lens. So how can I, for example, for myself as a Gemini, how can I post different types of videos to YouTube that feel more aligned with what my gifts are or what I've come here to teach about or to talk about? And then that can apply for you for whatever you want to do. How can you do it in your unique way? And again, innovate and progress concerning whatever you want as a Gemini. So those are your yearly themes, but let's go ahead and start off with quarter one, where we're having the Saturn-Neptune conjunction happen on February 20th, 2026. So this is a rare alignment in the sky happening at 0 Aries, and together these planets indicate some type of kind of like a spiritual awakening in a way, where we are realizing that maybe something isn't working in the way that we're going about it. And that makes a lot of sense with the cards, because a lot around the cards are coming up in regards to relationships. And we can see with the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in your 11th house that friendships, relationships, any kind of relationships really can come up here, where you might feel a sense of disillusionment around them, or like an awakening around certain patterns in relationships that you have been perpetuating. And so the Saturn-Neptune conjunction can really help you tune back in with your agency and also with your soul, so you can discover and make changes to the way that you're doing things. Because if you've been kind of feeling powerless to certain things in your life and you keep unconsciously ending up in cycles, that's the Aries agency where you can really see, okay, I got to take ownership here. I got to face this head on, and I have to make these changes. The Neptune element, though, is a lot about the soul connection of what is my soul trying to discover about relationships in this lifetime. So to have this conjunction happen in the relationship sector indicates that this is kind of this like major, not upheaval, but like a realignment in this area of your life. So the way that you've been going about your dynamics with others are meant to be shifting. This could also relate to how you feel your sense of belonging is in the world, or in a friend group, or in a community, or online. So if you have done things to kind of fit in, or, dim your light, with Uranus moving into Gemini later this year, it might be a time for you to reflect on how you can kind of stand out in some way, especially because Aries, which is the sign in your 11th house, is all about the individual, and it's about a sense of leadership. So maybe you are meant to be different and lead the group rather than try to fit in the group. So if you find that you're not really finding your footing with a friend group or a place of belonging, maybe you're meant to go out and create your own. And the Saturn-Neptune conjunction could illustrate that. The 11th house can also speak to our long-term goals. So there might be something around your long-term vision of your life, your wishes and dreams for your life that you need to take more seriously. And if you've been taking it super seriously, then maybe you need to bring more magic into it. So Saturn is the planet of seriousness. Neptune is the planet of fantasy and magic and imagination. So when we combine these, we have a kind of grounded but idealistic vision for our life. And so there might be a need to rework your vision for your sense of direction and your sense of purpose as well. So those are the main themes that I think will come up to you with the Saturn Neptune conjunction. And I think I will do a whole separate video on this because it's quite a big deal in and of itself. So we're also having eclipse season in February and early March, basically right around this time. We're having our first solar eclipse in Aquarius at 28 degrees on February 17th. So if you have any planets around 28 degrees of the fixed signs, which are going to be Taurus, Leo, and Scorpio, then you're going to have the biggest effect from this. But I can see you guys with this eclipse being in your 9th, and the ruler of Aquarius in traditional astrology is Saturn, which is conjunct Neptune in your 11th. So we're going to piece together basically 9th, 11th house elements. And what I see from this is basically having some kind of shift in your belief systems when it comes to your relationships or your goals, like I was just talking about. So seeing it differently, having maybe more hope or a different vantage point or greater self-belief, or challenging existing notions that you've been operating under in a really big way. So I think that this is going to be really powerful, again, for you to shift around your relationships, because if you start viewing what you are looking for in relationships through new eyes, or how you show up in new eyes, then it's going to transform the kinds of people you attract and the kinds of relationships you have. We're going to have a Virgo lunar eclipse on March 3rd. And this is happening at 12 degrees. A lunar eclipse is a full moon. And this is happening along your 4th and 10th house axis. So we're kind of in the final days, not days, but, final months of the nodes here in 2026, and then about halfway through the year they're going to shift signs. So you've been having the nodes in your 4th 10th house axis, which means the eclipses have been happening along these angular houses. So basically what happens when you have eclipses in 4th 10th is you have some major shifts in where you live, or with your family members, or even with your emotions or your money or your past. That's 4th house. Or you can have really major changes to your career. So realizing you want to do something different, or innovating your career, pivoting your career in some way. So I'm a Gemini sun and I moved to Scotland, for example. And then that obviously, my brother's a Gemini rising, that obviously affects him and indicates change within the family. So there are things that, again, happen along the 4th, 10th house axis with eclipses that can create change in career or family or where you live. So this Virgo lunar eclipse could potentially bring some of that for you guys, especially if you have any planets around 12 degrees of the mutable signs, which is Gemini, Sagittarius, Pisces, and Virgo. But it doesn't have to indicate something major, especially if you don't have any planets there. If it's not major, this could look like you guys letting go of certain emotional patterns from the past, or kind of resetting expectations, learning how to be less critical, more understanding of yourself and your choices. There's a feeling of adaptability here, as the North Node is in Pisces, and it's really urging us to accept some of our choices and our flaws, and not give ourselves such a hard time, and just adapt to the outcomes of the things that we've done. And this could also be revolving around finances, especially with this moon sextiling Jupiter in Cancer in the 2nd. So there could be something around money or self-worth that you're kind of learning how to heal and let go of. So if you've made some poor money choices, or if you haven't lived up to certain financial expectations or career expectations, or if you've been, again, hard on yourself or too critical of yourself around certain things, I could see you building your self-worth, letting some of that gunk go on a more emotional level. Okay, so let's get into some of the cards that I have for you guys. So I pulled 2 rows of cards. The first is around what you can expect in the first quarter, which again is January through March. And then the second set of cards is the advice and your blessings, what you're going to get from this experience. So we start off with like the overarching themes of quarter 1, which is the ring and the fox. I will say that this combination is not, I got excited when I saw the ring card. I'm like, ooh, relationships, commitments. But then the fox came out. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm sure that you guys understand the symbolism of a fox. So the fox can indicate some sort of deception. It's not seeing something fully clearly, or maybe something kind of underhandedly or subtly undermining you. It could be a commitment, but I think for many of you, it's a relationship in particular where maybe you went into it thinking one thing, or maybe you just think about relationships in one way in general, and there's actually this undercurrent of things going on that is negatively affecting your dynamics with others. And I don't want to immediately say that that's going to be another person, but it could be a fox-like personality where they appear one way and then they turn out another way, deceiving. But it could also be you deceiving yourself, or you have certain relationship beliefs that are, again, influencing you without you realizing it. So there can be some level of self-deception along those lines. So keep that in mind. There's a wide array of situations that this can fill. But the ring and the fox card definitely indicates that there is some underhanded or undermining energy regardless within the relationships. And that really makes sense with the first card being the 9 of cups and then the 9 of wands, Knight of Cups and the 9 of Wands in reverse. This can indicate a romantic interest or some type of relationship. It doesn't have to be romantic only, but for many of you, it'll be some type of offer of friendship, offer of love, or even maybe a contract or commitment with a company that's also potential, or a friend group. And then we have the 9 of Wands in reverse, which is like, are you really, you might realize around, especially that Aquarius solar eclipse, that you might be perpetuating a past cycle, because the 9 of Wands in reverse can indicate not really learning from your past mistakes. So there could be something here where you're holding on to something and you realize that in this quarter, where you're like, oh, I've been holding on to this belief and it keeps attracting me to these kinds of people. How do I get out of that? How do I shift gears? I could really see that for most of my Geminis, some major changes in relationships. And I think that Saturn-Neptune conjunction in the 11th speaks to that spiritual awakening that you're going to have, where you're going to realize those subtle energies, those subtle thoughts that are unconsciously driving you to repeat certain things. And I think that you're going to discover that you want to change that. I also have the Devil card and the 4 of Pentacles in reverse. So I feel like you guys are going to also discover where you may have in some ways felt like, there's just a number of things. So for some of you guys, I think you may have been holding yourselves back from authentic connection with the Devil and 4 of Pentacles reverse, kind of realizing that you maybe have had limiting beliefs around whether someone will like you if you say something that they don't agree with, for example, or if you, push back or want something else. Like there's something here around having a limiting belief around expressing all of yourself or being all of yourself, and how that could have led you to be more guarded, even if it's unconscious. And the 4 of Pentacles in reverse can suggest overcoming that, or having some kind of breakthrough when it comes to your self-concept and again, these limitations that you put on yourself with maybe without realizing it. Like, oh, I can't ask for help because then they're going to think I'm a burden, or, maybe I shouldn't try to hang out with this person because they don't like me, or I shouldn't put myself out there because of X, Y, and Z. Like these, I'm just giving examples of limiting beliefs that you might have been operating under, and I can see you breaking free from them in some capacity in this quarter, and recognizing that you don't need to hold your cards so close to your chest, recognizing that you can let go a little bit and not operate from a mindset of scarcity where you might have felt actually quite stuck. Again, I think that could have kept you attracting the same types of people or dynamics where you're like, oh, I actually don't feel fulfilled by this. Let me examine that a little bit deeper. So your advice for this quarter is she who hesitates, ponder, delay, and confidence. So first of all, I think it's one of the messages that's clear this quarter is building up one's self-worth and confidence. But I do think that this is trying to really say that part of how you can do that is by reflecting and maybe having some time to yourself instead of just like jumping into the next relationship or jumping into the next dynamic or trying to, again, fix this through action. I feel like part of what this is saying with the delay and ponder and hesitate is to allow yourself like the time and space to connect more with your soul, with the Saturn-Neptune conjunction 11th. Connect more with what it is that you really need at this time, what your soul really needs. And there's a lot of like intentionality and thoughtfulness here that I think is going to be really important. So yeah, I guess don't jump in, especially with this Fox card. Don't jump in without full clarity over the situation, because you might find that you end up right back in that same pattern. And even if you do though, it's okay to pause once you get in there, once you recognize that you're in it, and work yourself out of it. So I think many of us will end up in that situation again, but we can pause and work our way, like disentangle ourselves from it. So either way, there is some sense of like needing to pause at some point along the journey during this quarter, January through March. The blessings that are coming to you, I got these three cards like flew out together. And it's funny because I really feel like the center card is a card that speaks about speed and is influencing the cards on its side. So we got the Three of Swords, the Knight of Swords, and the Nine of Swords, all swords cards, which is all about the mental, the mind. So I do think that the Knight of Swords is influencing these two. So the Three of Swords can be a heartbreak card. Nine of Swords can be an anxiety card. But the Knight of Swords is somebody who is really fast, first of all. And they're able to move through maybe certain mental blockages or feeling, like not necessarily feelings, but thoughts that spiral feelings. They're able to move through it really, really, really quickly. So if you do end up in any kind of like relationship situation this quarter that doesn't feel the best, these cards can indicate that you're able to kind of immediately get over it. It's like you recognize a pattern super quickly, and then you disentangle you disentangle yourself from it, and then you're over it in like a week. Like there's something here about making a really fast recovery. And if this is concerning a past relationship, this could be talking about recovering or getting over something that used to bother you about a past dynamic really, really fast. So yeah, I'm getting the sense that you guys are, I don't know if it's like you're just really in tune with yourself or what this is, but there's something that's going to help you have a lot of self-awareness at a certain point, or it's like, oh, you're going to have a dawn or realization at a certain point, and then it's like the issue clears up from there basically immediately. So there's something about this that feels very, again, very speedy and light once you get to the other side of it. The other blessings card is the Queen of Wands and Two of Pentacles. I also feel like you're going to be, if this is concerning relationships, I feel like you're going to be really getting into your own energy and feeling very confident with yourself, like becoming the main character of your life instead of trying to prioritize relationships and other people and what do they want from me and how do I show up for them. And this is very much like a, I can immediately spot the takers. I can immediately spot the people who aren't going to show up in the relationship the way that I deserve. And coming back to that really strong place of like, you are here in my life to support me, not in a narcissistic place, but I will show up naturally to support you, but so I don't have to work on that. But it's like maybe you have to work on the other way around. And so this is kind of you being able to do that quite easily. So growing in self-worth, growing in confidence, feeling like I deserve for you to treat me like this. And if you're not, then walk away. If this is not related to relationships, I can see life getting a little bit like simpler for you guys at this time. You might feel really creatively inspired, more energetic, maybe even more sexually magnetic, and it might just feel like things start to balance themselves out with the Two of Pentacles, where they once felt like you had a lot of things going on. Maybe you were juggling a lot of priorities, and maybe you didn't have time to work out, or you didn't have time to meditate or do the things that really filled your cup. This card in reverse in the blessing section to me indicates that that cycle is ending, and you're going to learn how to either simplify, strategize, make efficient, or just change something about like your workflow or your day-to-day life that is going to allow you to prioritize yourself, and again, make yourself the main character, main focus of your life, instead of just giving all of your energy to work or to kids or to your husband or to your wife. This is you being able to recenter your life around yourself, your needs, your soul, your fulfillment in a way that I think is going to be very, very gratifying, fulfilling, and again, give you a lot of confidence. So yeah, that's what I see for quarter one for you, Gemini. Let's go ahead and move on to quarter two. And don't forget, I will have these linked in the description box down below so that when you want to rewatch them as the quarters come and pass, then you can just click on them in the links below. All right, quarter two, Gemini, is looking really positive in the cards that I pulled. And this is going to be a little bit of a quieter period of time, not as much happening astrologically. We are having Jupiter move into Leo on June 30th, which is the last day of the quarter anyway. And we're having Chiron move into Taurus, but that's not happening until June 20th. Taurus is in your 12th house. So Chiron moving into your 12th could indicate this potential for greater healing, especially when it comes to spiritual connection or even the physical body. And so if there's been things that have kind of been maybe subconsciously affecting you, Chiron moving to the 12th can bring light to those things in your life for you to heal and let go of. But again, the major thing that is interesting to me is Jupiter moving into your 3rd house. So I'm excited about this for you guys. It is going to be making a sextile to you, Gemini. And this is definitely indicated in the cards because Jupiter and Leo in the 3rd and sextiling your ascendant or your sun can indicate a feeling of greater sociability, of greater confidence, of greater optimism. Maybe you feel that creative spark that we got for your overarching year card. That's really going to come up with Jupiter and Leo. I could see you guys feeling really in your element and almost like kind of in control of your life in a new way that makes you act on some of the agency that Saturn and Aries wants from us. Maybe one of the messages that I'm kind of seeing in your cards is taking a lot of initiative, but maybe more so like reaching for the stars. And I can see that with this star card being your overarching energy for quarter two. This is a card that indicates reaching for bigger things, bigger horizons, but also having the faith and the optimism that it can work out. And then also feeling like you're living in alignment. The stars represent obviously something with astrology where you feel like things are in flow in terms of, planetary alignment, and that there isn't this inhibition of energy. And I can see that also with the High Priestess. I just feel like there's something almost psychic about this period of time for you. And I think that can speak to Chiron moving through your 12th, where you're getting this sense of instinct and, and a very strong intuition around what your purpose is, what you're here to do, and how you can maybe adjust certain behaviors to go out and do them. Because again, there could have been subconscious things that held you back without you realizing it. Even if there weren't, there's still ways that you can kind of click online or become more aware of what it is that you should be doing. And that's what I'm seeing with the Judgment card. This is a card of awakening, especially spiritual awakening, where you guys might realize something very clearly. Like maybe you've been butting your head up against a wall, trying to do something a certain way. And now it feels like you have this epiphany, this aha moment. And we are having Uranus in this quarter finally move into Gemini. So we're seeing here that Uranus is picking up speed. It's helping you recognize where there are blockages and eliminate them through innovation and through clarity of, again, redesigning something, awakening to what the problem is and looking at it through new eyes, and again, approaching it differently. And I really feel like you guys are going to be like, whatever changes you're making are going to get you into a cycle of prosperity with the Five of Pentacles in reverse. I feel like before, you used to see where there was lack. You used to see where there wasn't an opportunity or where something wasn't working. And again, I think you were butting your head against a wall. It's almost like if you had glasses that kind of fogged up and you couldn't fully see, but you kept trying to figure out what something said on the wall, like when you're at the eyeglass doctor. And they're having you read those letters, and it's like you're forcing it and trying to see and trying to see. And then all of a sudden, this awakening happens and you become kind of like psychic. And again, maybe you get some signs and synchronicities or dreams, or something comes to you that feels very aligned, and it's lighting up and clearing the fog from your glasses to where you can so clearly see exactly what you were meant to see before. And you know the path that you're going down, and it allows you to start pursuing it quite quickly then, because you have this unencumbered vision. And from that place, you're able to start creating a true sense of abundance. So maybe you have some kind of financial breakthrough or material breakthrough, or again, where you're seeing opportunity instead of lack. So even if it's not immediate abundance, what I think you guys are doing is seeing the opportunity and acting on it with the King of Wands. This is somebody who takes really bold, I was going to say vivacious, no, audacious, bold, audacious action where you're thinking that I'm going to be unstoppable, or you're not even thinking about the things that would stop you. You're just excited and you're passionate and you're moving forward full steam. At this point, Saturn is no longer encumbered by Neptune. So we have a very productive Saturn in Aries that says, take this risk, take this chance, obviously with logic. But there's this feeling here of, go out on your own, go out on a limb for this thing, do this thing that you haven't tried before, do this thing as a first in your life. There's something about that where you're meant to, again, innovate or be the first or do something new. And the Saturn in Aries is telling you to kind of reach for more, expand your horizons. And I think Jupiter in Leo, sextiling the ascendant, is really kicking that off for you at the end of June. And then we have the 10 of Wands in reverse. This says that you are no longer being slowed down. You are no longer feeling like you are weighed down by responsibility. Even if you do have a lot of work because you take on a huge goal, I don't see this feeling heavy for you. And in fact, I see it lighting you up. Like you wake up with a ton of energy. You wake up super excited about something. You feel really inspired, ready to go. And this is what I'm seeing for you guys is this feeling of ease and excitement and adventure to expand your horizons in some capacity. For many of you, it could be something, related to career, for example, or some kind of goal or ambition in your life, or maybe you do something with your family. It's probably going to be different for each of you, but there is something that is going to be unique about the way that you're doing it or the goal that you have. So, I think again that this is coming from, all of this ease is coming from you looking at the situation through new eyes. So very, very prosperous quarter from you from April through June. And it's funny because I'm a Gemini. I was looking at my zodiacal releasing, and I particularly pointed out April as a turning point for me in my zodiacal releasing to be a more positive period of time. And so I'm excited to see what this brings for us, because this aligns with me as well on a personal level. So what's your advice for this period? We have she who surrenders, chains, bondage, and release. This is exactly it. I feel like the 10 of Wands in reverse represents the symbolic image of letting something go in a place where you're no longer holding yourself back. If you had a limiting belief, if you had maybe this idea that work had to be really hard, or maybe you were in the wrong field or approaching something in the wrong way, it might have felt like you had to walk uphill with a really heavy bag of rocks. And now you're able to realize, oh, actually, I can get up the hill without this bag. Even though you're still going up that mountain, it's going to feel so much easier and more delightful because you can stop, you can look around, you can take your time, and you'll still get up there faster without that heavy weight on your back. So there's something about this that you're releasing yourself from some kind of like suffering or some kind of burden. It could even be something literal in your life shifting, like maybe you get money or an inheritance, or maybe you get some kind of relationship, maybe somebody moves in with you. There's something here where you could literally get support, because Jupiter sextiling your sign can often indicate that, where you are like literally having people support you in some way. Or this could be something that you've done yourself. Regardless, I think something is going to click for you on a mental plane that is going to release you from the bondage of your limiting beliefs. But I also think something on the material plane is going to shift for you to make things feel like they flow, so that you don't have to try as hard. Maybe your rent is literally halved because somebody moves in again, or maybe you sold your house finally, or maybe you got a loan, or maybe not something like that. It seems more like a gift that you don't have to pay back, or something that is going to continue to provide. And I see that with the Nine of Pentacles in reverse, that I really think that somebody is going to be like, someone else is going to be a part of this blessing with you. The Nine of Pentacles upright is a card of independence, but this is your blessing card and it's in reverse. So it can indicate that it can indicate a couple of messages here. One of them is that you are like being benefited by somebody else. So again, maybe an inheritance, maybe somebody moves in with you, like I mentioned, or maybe they start a business with you, or you're able to get like stocks from your company. Like there's something going on here where you have an opportunity through someone else. Or there could be, if you've been overly reliant on somebody and you have felt really trapped by that, this can indicate being free, being financially independent, being finally able to pay for yourself and stand on your own feet. If you have been relying on a family member or relying on a roommate to do something for you, this is you finally getting out of that. And I can see with the Four of Pentacles in reverse, you're no longer having to squirrel away all of your money. Maybe you've really spent a lot of time saving for something. Now you're able to finally buy that thing. Like if you've been saving for a house, you can finally buy the house, or saving for a car, or saving for a trip. You can finally spend the money on it without worrying, because you have additional money coming in. So there's this feeling of not having to preserve everything, not having to be in this lack mentality, but this feeling of abundance, that actually money is coming and going in a fashion that feels really stable and consistent. And because of that, I'm able to spend freely without worrying about the money that's going out. The next blessing we have is the Six of Wands, which is a card of ease. So again, this could be representing travel as well. So some of you guys might literally be traveling in the months of April through June. Others of you, this is just representing you guys moving into a time of, again, greater ease, where things feel like they flow, where you don't have to try as hard, or you have less resistance internally and externally in life, which I think I've talked about really clearly. But I also think that represents mentally and emotionally feeling a lot more at ease. And then the last card we have is the King of Swords. So this is a card of being really disciplined and being quite structured. So if you guys have had trouble with this at all, if you have maybe lacked clarity around what your goals and objectives are, if you have lacked organization skills, or if you've been kind of all over the place and scattered as a Gemini, this is a card that represents having very clear visions, very clear processes, standards, expectations, goals, targets, ways of hitting them, schedules, and kind of getting all those things organized. So you're not just haphazardly throwing spaghetti at the wall or saying, oh yeah, I'll do that sometime. It's like, I have a clear idea of where I'm going, when I'm going there by, what markers I should look for, what levers to pull to see if this is going to work or not work, or to affect this thing. It's like a very clear way of navigating your life, driving through your life, instead of just hopping in your car without a GPS and without music on. So this King of Swords to me is this mental clarity, this organizational and logical clarity, where you're able to be disciplined on the mental and structural level in your life to follow through and get to your end goal and destination. So very, very strong Q2 for you guys. The communication card could also come in here with that King of Swords. Maybe you feel like your mind is operating in a way where you're able to communicate very clearly, or you have some kind of breakthrough if you're trying to share some type of message with the world or with the relationships in your life. So there's something there that is also potentially going to shift in a really positive direction. So let's go ahead and move on to quarter three. This is going to be a really big quarter where there's quite a lot of volatility and energy in the general sense, astrologically. All right, Gemini. So quarter three is going to be taking place from July to September 2026. Like I mentioned, this is going to be a little bit more of a hairy time in terms of what's going on astrologically. We're entering into our second eclipse season. We are having the node shift signs this quarter, and we're having Jupiter in Leo opposite Pluto in Aquarius. So that's taking place on July 20th. And the nodes will shift into Aquarius North Node and Leo South Node on July 27th. So I do think that this is going to potentially bring up some push and pull dynamics between our desire to grow, our desire to take chances and have faith and believe in ourselves, and maybe, move abroad or deal with maybe international subjects or international people. And then this other part of ourselves that might be a little bit anxious or uncertain or overstimulated, overly busy, just trying to handle what's right in front of us, can't think bigger, wanting to just stay where we are instead of thinking about, moving or dealing with, again, foreign things. Lots of different topics that fall under that. But I see a general energy of expansion versus contraction, or thinking higher versus thinking smaller, more immediate and reactionary. And so I do think that there's going to be some tension coming up around that with the Jupiter-Pluto opposition. And then as the nodes shift signs with the South Node in the third house, we are meant to be shifting away from that kind of immediacy of, I got to get everything done right now. Let me think about my to-do list today. Let me react to my environment. Oh, somebody asked me to hang out. Let me go do that. That's like a very active, busy, in your head kind of response to life. With the North Node in Aquarius in the ninth, we're meant to be thinking about longevity. We're meant to be thinking about perspective and purpose and intentionality and truth and meaning, and why am I doing this thing that I'm doing? What is my larger kind of philosophical idea around my life and my way of spending my day? Maybe you're meant to travel abroad or live abroad, for example, or maybe study something new, or again, think about what you're currently doing through a larger scope, a larger lens. Aquarius is also much more concerned with the collective and its impact on the collective, instead of your immediate response and trying to satisfy your ego needs and trying to feel loved and admired because you were there for your friend on that day when they called you. You are meant to be kind of prioritizing a little bit more your ability to impact the larger collective and use your time and energy and focus and attention on bigger, more meaningful things. Not to say that we leave those other things behind or our friends behind or anything like that. No, but just that there needs to be more of a balance between these two. So that's, I think, going to be some of the major themes with those two transits. We also have an eclipse happening on August 12th in Leo at 20 degrees of Leo. Let's see. Which is going to be in your third house. So again, this is a good time for you to be examining the quality of your thoughts. If you find that you are, like I mentioned, kind of living in a very reactive, busy place, then this eclipse in the third house can help you get a little bit more heart-centered with the way that you're spending your time and your mental energy. This eclipse can also help bring out your thought patterns in general and show you where you may have had flaws or issues around your thought patterns, and try to help heal some of your mind, your nervous system. The third house is also a social and communicative house, so it can indicate where you are having a change in the way that you speak to others or in the way that you present yourself to the world or to others. Again, changes in relationship communication. If you've always wanted to go on a trip, or if you've always wanted to write a book or do something in terms of movement of information or your physical body, then the third house can also indicate some kind of start with that, some kind of teaching maybe, for example, or maybe you start a social media, or maybe you decide to do cross-country road trip. I don't know. Something like that is a very third house eclipse experience, especially for those who have planets around 19 degrees of Leo or any of the fixed signs like Taurus, Scorpio, and Aquarius. So we also have an eclipse happening in Pisces on August 28th. And this is happening at 4 degrees. So 4 degrees, a lunar eclipse. And this is taking place in your 4th and 10th house axis. So if you have any planets around 4 degrees of the mutable signs, Virgo, Pisces, Sagittarius, or Gemini, you're going to be impacted by this most. This is a somewhat volatile eclipse because, first of all, it's happening on your angles, which I mentioned does indicate the potential for some type of change in your life direction for like career or even in your place of living. But it's squaring Uranus as well. So Uranus in your first. So I do think that there's going to be some potential for major reinvention during this time where you are maybe straddling two realities between the old and between the new. And so we're going to have to kind of make some potential life-altering decisions at this turning point in August around who do I want to become, what direction am I trying to go in, and how do I have to change who I am as a result with that square to Uranus in your first house. I think I'll probably talk more about this in a second, but I want to get to the cards that I'm seeing. So I asked Spirit, what are the like overarching themes for this quarter? And I got the house card. So this can speak to issues going on within your home, within your family. And this eclipse can absolutely bring that up. You could have some sudden change within your home. Maybe like your home suddenly floods. That would be such a Piscean thing. Or maybe you have like somebody, if you rent out your house, maybe somebody's leaving, or maybe a family member passes, or maybe you decide to buy a house. Maybe you decide to move houses. Maybe a family member is born. Again, these are major life events that tend to happen around eclipses, but it's likely not going to affect you on a strong level if you don't have anything around 4 degrees of those mutable signs. So keep that in mind. But if you do, then this home card is going to be very relevant for you in terms of major comings and goings or happenings with your house and your family. This could also deal with your financial security, though less likely. I kind of get it, that's more about the home or family itself. The house card in this 4 can also represent being in a little bit more of a fixed mindset, and that can sometimes show with Jupiter opposite Pluto, where we can get it's easier for us to be proud and like fixated on one way of wanting to do something, and Pluto comes in and challenges that and says you need to think about this differently, you need to approach this differently, you need to grow in this different way, and we could feel a resistance to that. So the home card plus the death card in reverse can indicate some resistance to letting something go, to changing our perspective, to admitting that we're wrong about something, or letting our wall down, or, you know, our ego be wounded by the fact that we have to like adapt in some capacity to something that we thought was that we were doing in our way, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be about that, but there's just something about this where it's like holding on to a specific methodology or a specific viewpoint. And it's like, okay, let's just let that go. Or it could even be a person in a relationship, although I'm not really saying that as much. But there's definitely something here where it's like, we might, or, you know, if there is like a literal death within the family, this is like letting that person go and healing with the Temperance card. Because again, a lot can happen within the home or the family. So there's something about this where you may have some kind of shift in your, like in your comforts, the things that are usually there, the things that are usually stable in your life, like your home, like your family, like your way of doing things. There needs to be some kind of shift within that with the death card in reverse. And there might be some resistance to it out of fear or whatever reason. But I see us coming to a place of the Temperance where we're able to heal that and let go of the whatever those emotions are, maybe the fear or the sadness around moving on into a new cycle. And the nodes really often indicate a new cycle emerging for the next year and a half. So we are kind of shifting modes in the way that we're meant to do things. And again, there could be some initial resistance around that, especially because Gemini, you know, Geminis like to have this kind of stimulating, exciting, like responsiveness to life. But there is more of a need for forethought, for, again, big picture thinking, long-term thinking, that may require you to shake up your, just like your overall way of being almost. We also have the Nine of Swords and the Devil card. So you guys might go through a little bit of a lull here in this period of time, in this quarter, July through September, where you might have an experience of being kind of stuck. And this is why I'm seeing that Pluto opposite Jupiter around July 20th. You might feel tension of being mentally stuck. And a lot of this is like creating fears in your own head. Like, if I do this, then what if this happens? If I take this chance or this leap of faith, or if I expand myself in this way, then like, what if that happens? Or, you know, if this is going on, then what if that happens? It's like a lot of the what ifs, basically. And you can really kind of get in your own way and chain yourself to your nightmares or your fears or your sadness. Like, if there is things that are trying to evolve in your life, or if things are shifting. Again, maybe with this Pisces lunar eclipse on August 28th, maybe something happens in regards to your home or your family that is very dynamic and forces you to shift really quickly. And maybe you resist that and it creates a lot of fear for you. And it's like, what if we just are able to accept more of what's happening? And I see that with this Two of Wands. I feel like you guys are eventually going to come to a place where, I don't know if it's acceptance necessarily, but I see you guys like getting a plan in order. So instead of being fearful about everything and worried and feeling stuck, I see you guys getting organized, having a to-do list, feeling like, okay, if this happens, then I'm going to do this. Or I have these fears, but I'm just going to move forward anyway. And here's my plan in order to do that. Or I'm going to make sure that like, if there is this major change, how do I keep going in a way that keeps my life on track and organized, and not just like lose my momentum that I had last quarter, or lose my like eye on the prize, I guess, of like what my goals are, what my ambitions are, what my purpose is at this time. So it's like, if you do have to move, or if there is these big changes that kind of, again, throw you for a loop, it's like, okay, well, how do I regroup from there and have some type of action plan to move forward, instead of sitting here stuck and like thinking about what's going on? So that's why I feel like you guys are getting organized, and maybe the healing around these mindsets will come a little bit in this quarter with the Temperance card, but I think it could also come in the next quarter as well. So what are your blessings in this quarter? Well, let's start off with the advice. We have She Who Hopes, Love, Hope, and Relationships. I feel like this card is saying to hold on to your sense of optimism. Also reach out to your connections if you are feeling overwhelmed at any point, that you have people who love you, you have people who are there for you. And so there is like things to be hopeful about. And so part of your advice is to make sure that you are remaining connected to that and how much you are supported. We also have the Nine of Wands in reverse and the Ten of Swords in reverse. So I feel like there is something here around the blessing where it's like you initially might resist some type of ending, and it could cause you a lot of internal heaviness to keep fighting for something that is like gone, or that is, the chapter is done, or you're trying to like, yeah, I don't know, like it's as if you had a marriage and it's clearly over and the person is asking for a divorce, but you keep trying to show up in couples therapy and get them flowers and do X, Y, and Z and try to revive the relationship. And it's like, it's done. This is over. So there's something about this, with this being your blessing. I do see, maybe even though we have some initial resistance to a period of loss and transition and letting something go, it doesn't even have to be a negative loss, but it's just like something is ending in our life. And we might, again, initially hold back from that, but we will eventually let it go. And from that, we will actually get a lot of blessings. So there will be a huge blessing as a result of this thing leaving our life, or as a result of our life changing. So don't be fearful of releasing the grip onto something, because once your hand opens, the universe will plop something else into it. And I can see that with the Six of Pentacles and the Page of Cups. Some of you guys might literally be given money in some capacity, or just like meet a new person. The Page of Cups is often like an offer of love, especially with the Six of Pentacles, like a true partnership. If this is romantic, a true match to who you are is going to enter your life next. This could also represent having some kind of relationship support. We saw that with the advice card here of like leaning on people in your life. There's some type of really good support system here, or people being very generous with you. Like for example, if we were going through this divorce example, which it could be anything, it doesn't have to be this, but let's say you did end up finally letting that person go. Maybe you have a friend abroad who's like, come stay with me for a few months and for free, and you go on this amazing adventure, and you find yourself, and you travel with this world card, you meet new people, maybe you find a new fling, and you're just having like the time of your life. That's kind of what I'm seeing of, you may have been focused so much on the destruction of thing leaving, and you're worried, and it's like, what if you just look to what's next instead? And then you're going to get so many blessings from that. And I think a lot of that is going to come from the people in your life giving back to you, filling up your cup in some way, and maybe meeting some really new exciting people with that Page of Cups. With the World card, this can also indicate, again, travel. It can indicate the successful completion of a cycle. So by letting something go, you are closing that chapter of whatever that is and inviting something new in its place. Again, I think that's going to be very positive for you. This card also indicates success and achievement in general. So I think that you're going to actually end this quarter feeling like you have achieved something, even if it's not always on a material level, which it could be with that Six of Pentacles. Maybe you feel like you're getting into a place where you're getting the money that you deserve, or maybe you are in a material situation that feels balanced for you. So that could be the case, but this could also be success or achievement in terms of like a mental and emotional, spiritual place of feeling like I'm actually in a balanced place in my life. I'm enjoying my relationships. I'm at peace with the situation at hand, and feeling like a sense of accomplishment and fulfillment as a result of this whole journey that you've been through. So yeah, it looks like quarter three is big. I think it's big for everybody, but I think that the less you try to hold on and ruminate and mentally resist something, the more that you will find the blessings start to pour in, and it will happen for you regardless. And if you do want love and that's not in your life before this point, it could come into your life in quarter three, or at the very least, some new relationships that are loving, even if it's not romantic. So let's go ahead and dive into quarter four and see what that's going to bring for you, Gemini. Okay, Gemini, quarter four is going to last from October to December 2026. And there is really just one major event that I want to talk about, which is the Venus retrograde from October 3rd to November 13th, happening from 8 degrees of Scorpio all the way back to 22 degrees of Libra. And that's going to extend into your 6th and 5th house. So what is this about? Well, typically when I see Venus retrograde, we are often going through a reevaluation period, often concerning our relationships, but that's kind of not what I'm seeing for you guys. Of course, that could be the case, so keep that in mind. But for some reason, I feel like this Venus retrograde is more so a deliberation period around your work, your commitments to the things that you have, done through work, or like hobbies. It could also be around your creative projects or things that you are trying to accomplish, basically. And with the Venus retrograde, I think is going to, moving through your 6th and 5th, help you reprioritize, reorganize, look at those things through a new lens, and maybe ask yourself, am I as committed to this? Do I like the way I'm going about this? Can I maybe cut some things out? Maybe I have too much on my plate, how can I reorganize my time, essentially? So I can see something like that happening here for you guys. But let's go ahead and dive into the cards. So we start off with the two overarching themes this month, and we have the dog and the coffin card. So the dog, to me, represents that you guys are going to have some really loyal companionship this quarter. So this could represent having a really close friend or a partner, or a family member or somebody that is really supportive of you through a period of transition with the coffin, through a period where you are having something die off. And we talked about this with the last quarter. So I do think that this is probably merging across 2 periods of time, where if you are transitioning out of something or changing something, it's not going to just happen in quarter 3, but it's going to extend into quarter 4. And so the coffin card can represent the loss of something, the change of something, the transition from one chapter to the next. And it might be somewhat challenging. I am seeing the 9 of Swords here in describing this era or this period of time. And I will say, you know, the 9 of Swords has come up for you guys a lot. But the 9 of Swords is a card of, yeah, it's anxiety, but it's a card often of like projecting our fears onto the scenario, but it's not really merited. So I will say that you guys might have inner tension that's not really valid, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's not going to be validated. So, but it could also be a form of just, yeah, like mental suffering from the transition or loss of something. But I don't think that you guys, yeah, I think that things are going to be okay. Let's just say that. And you have that loyalty. You have someone there to support you through all of this anyway. So let's go into what is happening this quarter. So we have the 7 of Wands. So the 7 of Wands can represent you kind of fighting against the odds of something or fighting against other people to make this change. So if you are trying to transition out of something, maybe some people disagree with what you're trying to do. Maybe you have a certain idea of how you want something to go within your work or your commitments. And then maybe that's not what your boss sees or what your coworkers see or what others expect of you. So there's something here around maybe what you want to instigate the change with, or what you're seeing is happening in your life that is unavoidable. Other people are resisting and you're having to kind of hold your own. This could also be potentially from within, of having to fight off other parts of you or other parts of your life that may try to encroach upon these new boundaries that you're setting. So if you're saying, okay, I'm going to make sure I have time to work out every day, and this is super important for me, and maybe other people start to hit you up and they're like, hey, what are you doing? Let's go for a chat. Let's go for a coffee. And that 7 of Wands can represent needing to hone in on your sense of schedule and routine and boundaries so that you don't let people encroach upon it. Venus retrograde through the 6th can really represent that too. And the King of Cups in reverse, this could represent feeling maybe a little bit more emotional. That's also really common with Venus retrograding through Scorpio. You might have a lot of feelings that you're just processing, maybe stuff from the past, maybe stuff that comes up when people are encroaching on your boundaries. People can just be like touchier during this time, yourself included. And so it just might feel like there's a lot of feelings out in the air. People might feel like a little bit more just tense in general, or like they have more, they're just like more tender, more sensitive. I just think that that's really common during this time. So, you know, listen to yourself, but also at the end of the day, maybe recognize that this card with the 9 of Wands can represent overblowing a situation in your head and then really feeling a lot of big feelings because of that. So I would say that you maybe can't 100% trust your own judgment at this time, because you might feed into negative thoughts and negative outcomes more than things really are. So this could be a good time to lean on that dog character, the friend, the therapist, the loyal partner or family member that has your back. They know you, they know your life, and they can help give you perspective, because that is something that I think many of us are going to struggle with during this time. When our mind and our emotions get all revved up, they can start to see things that aren't there, blow things out of proportion, worry about things that we don't need to worry about, that type of thing. We have the 6 of Swords next, which is really good to see, because this often represents moving from choppy waters to smooth waters. So I think that you made, in some ways, the waves choppy. There could have been some resistance that added to that, like circumstances that made that a thing, but you kind of made them worse for yourself. And now this card represents also being able to make it better for yourself. Once you turn to that friend, or you recognize that actually it's not as bad as I thought it was, or actually I have a better handle on this. This is probably when Venus goes direct or is moving towards that place towards the middle of November. You guys might start to feel like, actually, I'm doing better than I thought. I'm not giving myself enough credit. Things are going well. Look at these boundaries that I'm holding. I didn't need to overreact like that or have that fear. Everything's going good. So that's what I'm seeing with the Six of Swords is kind of this transition into more of a sense of peace around how you're doing or where things are at in your life and your routines. Then we end with the Four of Cups, and I pulled the Queen of Pentacles as a clarifier. So this to me is somebody that is recognizing what their priorities are and deciding that they're not going to say yes to everything. So there may be a bunch of tasks that your boss tries to give you that are outside of your job description, and you just say, I can't do that. Sorry, I'm working on this. This is the priority that you gave me 2 weeks ago. This is what I need to complete. Or maybe this is you turning down other types of work if you're a business owner or whatever. If you're a stay-at-home mom and you have a lot of stuff that you have to do, this is you delegating. This is you just deciding that you're not going to do something. Like, I'm going to get takeout. I'm not cooking. Something here to preserve your energy, to preserve your priorities, like basically making sure that you have time for your health, your well-being, the things that you really want to get done. This is clarifying what you want, basically, to accomplish in the material world. And the Queen of Pentacles is somebody who is really good at having their finances in their home taken care of. So if there's something that comes at a cost of that, you're going to say no to it. Even if that's like spending extra money, going out on that social thing, doing something that you don't want to do that much, or that doesn't actually 100% align. Maybe it's interesting to you, but you're like, let's stay focused. And I think that Venus retrograde is going to help you get really clear on what those priorities are to stay focused on. And I think that you're going to recognize that you're actually pretty good at that once Venus goes direct. So what's your advice for this period? We have she who instigates leadership, provocation, and power. So your advice for this period is to stand in your power and stand in your leadership, even if other people fight against it with that Seven of Wands. Even if people are like, no, just come out. It's just one night. It's just one little task. Why don't you just say yes to it? Or, I know you're trying to make this pivot and this transition, but what if you just did one more thing for me before you did that in this old field? And you're like, no, I'm not going to do that, actually. And that's the leadership position of holding your own, knowing what it is that you're here to do and prioritizing that, because you are the leader of your own life. If you let other people steal your energy and make life decisions for you because you can't say no, then you're going to never get anywhere and you're going to feel drained at the end of the day. And it's going to be not fulfilling and anxiety producing. And I think you'll have a little dip of that where you feel people drawing on your energy, but I sense you coming back to your leadership and power as a result of maybe stepping a toe in that water and be like, oof, I don't like that. I'm coming back to my sense of self and saying no. And so I see you guys really kind of fortifying your external shell and your ability to disappoint people or your ability to say no. And I feel like that's going to work really, really well for you, especially because, again, with this Coffin card, I feel like this is a quarter where you are going through a personal transition out of one phase of life into another, out of one focus into another, one field into another, or letting something go. And in order to do that, I think that you have to shift the time that you're spending on certain things, your focus on things, your priorities, or, even what relationships you maybe give more attention to. And so in order to honor this transition, you have to be able to say no to the things that are maybe old and a part of the old life. So what are the blessings that you're getting from this quarter? We have the Four of Swords in reverse. So this card represents you guys. If you have felt like, well, okay, there's a couple of things. First of all, I feel like this card is probably speaking to the balance, because the Four of Swords can represent inactivity, and it can also represent like rest. It's in reverse, which can mean coming out into the world and engaging with the world. I think there's a combination of the two here, though, where the blessing for you is that you are able to learn how to prioritize both rest and time to yourself, where no one gets anything from you but you. And prioritize as well your connections, your time socializing, your friendships, or whatever it is out into the physical world. So I feel like you guys are getting a better self-care practice, but also when you're active, you're active. Maybe this looks like wasting less time, not doom scrolling, for example, and doing things that really fulfill you or that re-energize you, so that when you do go back out into the world, you have a lot more capacity to be quite efficient and then have more time for yourself. There's something around that where it's like, actually, I'm going to say no to this. And because of that, I'm freeing up energy so that I can have more time to rest and more efficiency when I'm producing. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, Two of Cups. So Two of Cups, again, soulmate card, relationship card, feeling love, feeling like you're getting the support you need. We did see that dog card, which is all about loyalty. So I definitely feel like you're going to have a best friend, a mate, a family member, again, anyone really, a mentor who's guiding you right now, who's that shoulder you can cry on, and they are going to make sure that you hold your boundary, that you protect yourself. They're going to support you even if other people are pushing back, and they're going to encourage you and be like, no, you're doing good, keep going, don't let them get in your head, kind of thing. We also have the Page of Swords in reverse and Seven of Swords in reverse. So this, I feel like, can represent dysfunctional communication, and then all of these like psychological tactics and like warfare, like manipulation that can happen in communication, in our conversations with people without us even realizing, where people like guilt trip you, or they might say something to make you feel bad about not doing as much as you used to do, and undermining your way that you saw yourself and your new success in this chapter or whatever. There's something here around that where that might have gotten to you in the past, where maybe somebody came at you with some choice words, or they didn't understand your perspective, and it causes this weird feeling of being like, you feel like you need to prove yourself or make yourself understood. There can be a lot of that happens that could get in our head, especially when we're trying to hold boundaries. And I see you guys coming into a place of not needing to do any of those things. Like, those things aren't affecting you as much, and you're in your leadership and your power. So you don't need to, if somebody tries to make you feel guilty, it doesn't stick. It doesn't come inside and affect how you feel. If somebody is trying to, rile you up and misunderstand you on purpose, or give you an ungenerous, view of you, then it's like, okay, well, I don't really care. So something about this where I feel like you are not letting other people's voices and their negativity get into your energy and self-sabotage you. Instead, you're able to keep that boundary, and it may temporarily leak in at a certain point, but I see you developing a boundary, if that does happen, pretty quickly, or doing it really well, to the point where you're like, actually, yeah, that person is criticizing me for this, but when I look at how their life is, I don't actually want it to be like my life like theirs. Like, maybe they don't actually make time for their health, and they're trying to guilt trip you into going out and drinking and spending money, and you just don't want to. And you're like, but I don't like their results. Why am I trying to listen to them? And it becomes really easy to not take in their perspective. And then the last blessings we have is the Ace of Pentacles in reverse and Seven of Cups upright. This is, I feel like you guys, because you cut things away, not cut things away, but like, I feel like you're turning down opportunities. Again, opportunities to spend money, opportunities to hang out, work opportunities, things that require time and energy and focus and attention, you're turning them down. And because of that, you have the Seven of Cups as a clarifier, which is a card of imagination, a card of fantasy. So this is you being able to go for a walk in the woods and look at the trees and feel the wind on your face and think about, your future. And maybe if you have kids, maybe think about your kids, or your novel that you're writing, because I'm writing a novel right now, so I'm saying for myself, or any other kind of thing that excites you, that you like to fantasize about, and you have downtime to dream up your future, to imagine the realities that you want to live. Maybe you get to watch a movie for a change, or just do something that feels like you're having downtime to enjoy the creative element of life, the element of life that doesn't come from being scheduled, that only can arise because you have space and are relaxed enough to let these ideas come to you, these musings come to you, where you feel this creative spark, which is one of your yearly cards. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Gemini. It looks like a big focus again on communication, creativity for throughout your year. And this is going to be an exciting quarter where you're going to set the boundaries needed to be able to do that. And that boundary setting could come as a result of the ways that you've been working on your communication. So this is your whole year. If you enjoyed this, please do support my channel. I am trying to grow my channel, and I really appreciate any feedback or like support basically that you can give me. So that this looks like commenting down below, liking the video, hyping a few points, sharing it with a friend, you know, listening to it all the way through. I appreciate any of that because that really reflects to me that this is worth spending time on, that somebody's actually watching it and somebody actually cares. Because I am talking to a camera, guys. It is weird. I mean, I enjoy it, but it is weird. Like, it's a very isolating thing. So it's very, very meaningful to me to have any kind of comments, because it makes me feel like, oh, somebody's watching this. Like, this isn't just disappearing into the void. So again, I appreciate that, and I hope that you guys have a beautiful day. Bye.